everybody. My name's Graham Matthews, and I run Empowered STEM. Empowered STEM is an A-level course provider, and we provide A-level courses in biology, chemistry, physics, and maths for those students that want to enroll in medical, dental, veterinary, financial, and engineering programs at the chosen university in the UK. So today, I wanted to come in and I wanted to talk about more revision is not the answer. Here's why. Parents, you may see your teen doing this one. They say, well, I need to revise more for A-level maths and A-level science. And so what they do is they add on more hours, or they're staying up later, they're burning the midnight oil, they're cutting out breaks, or they're filling their weekends with study. And yet the grades don't rise. Sometimes the grades actually fall. So the question becomes this one, parents. If more revision isn't working, why do we keep defaulting to it? Now, the core misconception that parents and students have is this, is that volume equals progress. So most families assume more time equals more improvement. And when you think about it, on the surface, it makes sense, doesn't it? If you want to become better at something, well, then you practice more. If you want to become more fit, you go down to the gym more. It's the 7,000 hours myth that's out there that makes you an expert in something. But at A level, performance is not linear. After a certain point, more revision, it creates fatigue, reduced focus, shallow repetition, and anxiety. The four things that your teenager doesn't need. And shallow repetition, it doesn't build exam performance. However, and this is the trap, it does give your teen the feeling of being productive. So here's the hidden problem with revision without diagnosis. So most students, if they get a bad test grade or bad exam grade, or they're studying for a test or an exam, they say this: I'll go over the whole topic again from beginning to end. And again, it makes sense. Let's revise the whole topic because I need to know the whole topic because this is what's on the test that my teacher's going to give me at school. But what they don't know with this approach is this, is which question types are costing marks. Is it the multiple choice for one marker? Is it the 2-marker definition, the 3-marker concept question, the 4-marker calculation question in A-level chemistry, the 5-marker mechanism, or that 6-marker essay question? They just don't know. And they're not really certain as to what the issue is. Is it they don't know the content? Is it their exam technique? Is it that they're running out of time? Is timing the real problem? So what they're doing is they're putting work in, but they don't have a plan. They don't have an outcome. They don't have a well-formed set of steps to take. And so what happens then is that they don't realize where these patterns occur with the always losing marks. And so without diagnosis, revision becomes general. I'll just go over everything. The problem is this, is that general revision produces general results. And at A level, you don't want a general grade in A-level maths and A-level science. If you want to go to medical, dental, or vet school, for example, you want the A or the A star because you want to be a competitive candidate. So the issue is this: when they're doing general revision, they fall into the familiarity trap. Now, parents, we've talked about this one on a previous live stream. but it's this. You may see your teen when they start to study, start to revise in the evening, rereading notes, copying over notes, making sure the notes are nice and neat and highlighted and tidy, or the rereading the section of the textbook, or the highlighting the textbook. With these highlighters, they have the entire spectrum of colors. They're like Skittles. Or you see them watching explanation videos on YouTube. Now, the catch is this, is that these activities, they feel reassuring to your teen because they think that they're being productive. But the reason why they feel productive and they feel reassured is the content becomes familiar. They've seen it before. They've seen it. They've seen the question so many times on all the sample papers that they do. And so they know what the examiner's looking for. So they just spit out exactly what the examiner wants. So they go, right, check, I got that one right. But the issue is this, is that familiarity with the content is not the same as recall under pressure. Now, the US Marines, they have a saying, which is, you train under the conditions that you will be tested, as in on the battlefield. And so there's something really different about knowing the content, being familiar with the content when your teen is sitting at the desk at home, as compared to being able to recall it in the sports hall or in the classroom when they're doing an exam or a test. And the issue is that A-level exams, the way that they're structured, they don't test recognition. They don't test recall. What they test is application. Can your teen apply the content to novel situations they've not seen before? They couldn't possibly memorize their way into getting the answer correct under the pressure of the exam. And so what happens is that you see this performance gap with how your teen does studying, revising in the house, and the grade they get on the test or the exam. And there's often a gap, and we see it all the time at Empower STEM. There's often a gap between what your teen knows at their desk and what they can execute in a timed exam. And the issue is this, is that more revision, more general revision, widens the gap. And so the situation becomes worse. Unless they start to use targeted revision. Now, why is it, parents, that general revision, revising everything, the entire topic, how come it doesn't work? Because simple, your brain, the way it's wired, and this is coming in from the neuroscience, it strengthens what it practices. So imagine a musician, somebody that wants to play the piano or play the violin. They practice daily, but they're practicing correctly. They're not just randomly playing songs, are they? They're doing something which is targeted, and so they're learning a specific technique on how to play the piano or how to play the violin. And if your teen does the passive revision strategy, rereading notes, highlighting the textbook, watching YouTube explanation videos, then they become really good at reviewing passively because the brain practices and learns how to review passively because this is what it thinks that your teen wants. And so all of a sudden, they're really good at passive review, and passive review is not going to get them the grade that they need in A-level maths and A-level science. Your teen's brain doesn't become good at performing on the test on the exam under exam conditions. So, what exactly moves a A-star grades? How does your teen move along, as we call it at EmpowerSTEM, move along the journey to the A and the A-star? Well, instead of doing a general revision strategy, what we found and what studies show is this, is the high-performing students, they're really focused on what they study or what they revise. For example, they use precision diagnosis, which is they look at the past papers and the past exams that they did with a critical eye, and they determine where exactly were marks lost. Was it content? Was it exam technique? Was it the pressure of the exam? What was the type of question? Was it the 4-marker question, the 5-marker question? And then they use targeted correction. So targeted correction means this, is that they don't try to fix everything at once. So if you go back to the musician who's learning to play the piano or learning to play the violin, for example, their teacher is not going to say, well, you need to correct this, and you need to correct this, and you need to correct this, because the student is going to sit there either at the piano or holding the violin thinking, wow, there's just so much for me to correct. Which one do I correct first? What they do is they have targeted revision set up for the student. They go, right, what I need you to do first is correct this. And once you've got this bit mastered, then we can do this bit. And so coming back to your teen, what they need to do is that they need to correct one weak area at a time. And they can do this by deliberate exam practice. Yes, pull the exams in to the revision strategy. Do not wait until the end of the course when they start to look at exam papers or the night before the test or the exam to look at exam papers. Successful students bring the exam papers in to their revision cycle, and they do the exam papers under timed conditions, under conditions which are structured. They mimic the exam hall experience. Then they write down structured exam answers, not bullet points. Oh, I kind of got this one right. I would have said this. This will do. This is my quick note that I did just to myself. No, they actually write out the answer that they would write down if they were taking the exam. And then after they mark it, we call it green pen, red pen marking. Then they go back in and they review what they did with a critical eye and say, did I improve on this weak area? Did I somehow, as Brendon Burchard would say, spike the needle? If I did, great, I'm making progress. If not, I need to go back in, loop around again, and fix it again. And so for them, every mock exam becomes a feedback loop. They are stuck in this entire feedback loop. It's just data. There's no emotion to it at all. But they also schedule in recovery and consolidation, because they know you can't study and revise effectively if you haven't eaten well, or if you're tired, or if you're fatigued, if you're burnt out. What you do need is you do need to incorporate rest and downtime into your study plan so that they're performing at their peak potential. Now, what this does is this, because they're following such a targeted approach to this, they can now have a measurable result, and a measurable result leads to a measurable improvement. And measurable improvement builds confidence. And it's a fairly easy cycle. They look at what they've done, they mark it, maybe they keep a graph or some kind of a score, like a table. And then they're looking to see, Is my grade on the exam improving? Is my grade on these specific weak areas improving? It is, which means that I must be improving. And so the confidence spirals up because belief, values, and behaviors, they're all linked in together. On the other hand, there's those teens that unfortunately they go through the burnout effect. And it's this. They get back the test, they get back the exam, they get back the mock exam. And what they say is, oh, you know what? I just need to revise more. And so they do. They put in more hours. They're studying all weekend. They're not seeing their friends. They're cutting out break time. They become really obsessed with revising and studying. And the issue is that this actually leads to more stress for your teen. They become more stressed. They sleep less. And studies show that if you are stressed and if you are tired because you don't have a good night's sleep, it lowers the working memory. And the issue with this one is that on the exam the next day, they're actually making mistakes, silly mistakes, and they're unable to recall questions which, when they were studying, revising, they easily got. And it decreases retention time. As in, they're having to reread the textbook once, reread the textbook twice. They're looking at the notes. It's not really quite clicking anymore what's going on. They're looking at the question. They're not really seeing it. And what happens is that rather than spiral up, like the student who is with the targeted revision approach, they're actually spiraling downwards because they start making mistakes, their grades get lower, they then get more stressed, their confidence begins to get lowered, and they spiral all the way downwards. And what happens is that it becomes a cycle of effort without any evidence. Put in more effort, there's no evidence that they're improving. More effort, no evidence that they're improving. You just spiral all the way down. So, how exactly can your teen revise more effectively? Well, at Empowered STEM, we use the STEM Path method. It's a 4-step method that we use to help students climb the grade journey up to the A and the A star in A-level maths and A-level science. And so let's apply the STEM Path method to this. Let's do a reframe. Precision diagnosis. Stop revising everything. Your teen does not need to revise, for example, what they already know, what they're good at, what they're strong at. What they need to have is a very clear map of the strengths and the weaknesses and exactly what their weakness is. What's the question type that they need to work on? What's the topic? What's the subtopic? Conceptual clarity. Revise the concept thoroughly so that they understand it. They can explain it. This is the Feynman technique. They can explain it forwards and backwards, left and right, around in a circle. It doesn't matter. They can teach you the concept. They know the concept thoroughly. Not a glossy, glib overview of the concept, but a really deep understanding of the concept. Strategic revision. Let's revise the weak areas, not the strong areas, the weak areas. Let's go focus on the weak areas. And let's get really, really specific. So we drill down. So you have topic, subtopic, and question type. The medical mindset. Let's detach emotion from grades. Because our students know that their identity is not linked to their grade in the mark book for A-level maths and A-level science. What that grade is an indication of the habits and the behaviors that they had when they were taking the exam or the test. But when effort becomes structured, when there's a plan, as Tony Robbins would say, a map, a massive action plan, the volume naturally reduces because it becomes more targeted. You become more efficient at what you do, and results improve. You see the grade and the mark book improve. So, parents, what exactly can you do this week to help your teen? It comes down to questions. It always comes down to questions with me, doesn't it? And you either ask belief questions or you ask behavior questions. And if you've been watching the live streams long enough, you know you never ask your teen a belief question. So instead of asking them, so have you revised enough for the test or the exam? That's judgmental, isn't it? Or why aren't you upstairs revising? Why aren't you studying? Why aren't you like your friend who seems to easily get the A or the A star? They're so good in maths and science, aren't they? What you need to do is ask behavior-based questions. For example, what's the specific mistake you're fixing this week? Right, okay. You're doing A-level chemistry and you're doing thermodynamics, energetics. You're doing the Born-Haber cycle. Got it. Right. Now, parents, you may not have taken A-level biology and done gene expression and cells and everything else, or A-level chemistry, or even A-level maths with differentiation and integration and everything else. But you can still ask the question and listen when they tell you. What pattern did your last paper show you? What did you notice? Well, Mum, Dad, it was that full marker calculation question again. I almost get it, but just at the end, I forgot to put down the right number of significant figures or the units, so I didn't divide by 2 or whatever. Right. Or, so what question type are you practicing deliberately this week? You're doing the 5 marker mechanisms. Got it. Right, good one. Or what with the curly arrows? Understood. Ask them, are you measuring improvement? Now, this is the big one. Are you measuring improvement? You're not just upstairs, just going through as many past paper questions as you possibly can, scribbling down some answers and some cryptic notes only you would understand, and then marking it really quickly, then moving on to the next paper. I see. So you've got a logbook, you've got a table set up. Right, you got a graph going. Brilliant. So therefore we can measure the improvement, can't we? And so what you do is that you shift the focus of your questions from hours that they're putting in studying, revising, to evidence. So you don't use belief questions, you use behavior questions, and then you focus you focus your attention on the evidence that it is showing. And the reason why you do this, parents, is this one, is because if the evidence shows that the grade is improving, well, they're beginning to climb the path to the A or the A star in A-level math and A-level science. So parents, let me give you some reassurance about this one. If your teen is revising constantly, but not improving, it doesn't mean that they lack ability, that they're not smart enough to do A-level maths or A-level science, or that they lack discipline, they're not structured, they're disorganized, or they're not trying hard enough, they're not putting in the time, effort, attention. What it means is this, is that the strategy that they're using needs upgrading. Because more revision is rarely the answer. And we found this at Empowered STEM. Students revise, they put in the time, they're trying their best. So more revision is not the answer. Better revision is. So parents, if you're watching this live stream on Facebook, if you're watching this live stream on YouTube, if you agree with what I'm saying, because we do these live streams every week, if what I'm saying resonates with you and you're watching the live stream on Facebook, well, then like the business page, because then you will be notified of upcoming live streams. Or if you're watching the live stream on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because not only will you be notified of upcoming live streams, but you can also watch all the other live streams that we do. Because we're always doing live streams where we show parents the tips, the techniques, and the strategies that they need in order to be able to help their teen earn top grades in A-level maths and A-level science. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the courses that we offer at Empowered STEM, it's really easy to do. Whether you're on the Facebook or you're on YouTube, click the link in the description, fill out the short form, and a member of my team will reach out to you and have a non-sales conversation with you. And on the call, you can explain to the member of my team the grade that your teen has in A-level maths, A-level science, their working grade in the mark book, what the predicted grade is, what the aspirational grade is, what university they want to go to, whether they want to be a doctor, a dentist, a veterinarian, an engineer. And then you can explain what's working or what's not working for your teen. And you can ask all the questions you want about the courses that we offer at Empowered STEM. And on the call, a member of my team will explain the course structure to you, how it works. And so at the end, you will be well informed and well taken care of, which means that if it's a good fit between us, if you think that our courses will help your teen, and we think our course can actually help your teen, you have all the information you need to make a well-informed decision. Everybody take care, and I'll see you in the next one.